Hey, horror fans! Once again, it is me, the Horror Mizumani G. Yes, continuing my series of horror films from the 70s. It's time to talk about Salem's Lot. Yes, from 1979. Ha 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 ha.
Don't fuck with them hoes.
Now, Salem's Lot is a 1975 American TV horror miniseries. It's directed by Tobe Hooper and was written by Paul Minash, based upon the novel by Stephen King. Now, the series stars David Soul, James Manson, Lance Kerwin, Bonnie Beldella, Ed Flanders, and Reggie Netler. Now, in the series, a novelist and a young horror fan attempt to save a small New England town which has been invaded by vampires. Ha 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 ha. Now, growing up during the 70s, there were plenty of decent horror movies that were broadcast on network television. Now, back during the time when I was growing up during the 70s, there were only three broadcast networks: NBC, CBS, and ABC. That was it. Now, all throughout the 70s, either one of these broadcast networks were broadcast certain TV horror films, from 1972's The Night Stalker, 1973's Don't Be Afraid of the Dark, and 1975 Trilogy of Terror. There were plenty of made-for-TV horror movies that I watched during the 70s. Now, one of the best made-for-TV horror movies that I saw was the 1979 TV miniseries Salem's Watch, which was directed by Tobe Hooper and based on the Stephen King novel of the same name. Yes, really loved this one. Now, when Warner Brothers acquired the rights to Salem's Lot, they tried to turn Stephen King's novel into a feature film, but for some reason couldn't come up with a script that would remain faithful to the source material. So we really got to give Warner Brothers credit. They wanted to remain faithful to the script, the novel that King written, but since it's such a large novel, it's 400 pages long, if I'm not mistaken, they had trouble trying to convert it into a feature film and also remain faithful to the source material. So they decided to send the project over to the television division, where producer Robert Corbett felt it would be better that, due to the novel's length, it would be better broadcast as a TV miniseries. Now, Corbett would hire television writer Paul Minash, who actually wrote the film adaptation for another of King's novels, Carrie, which came out, I believe, in 75, to pen the teleplay, and Corbett would go on to hire film director Tobe Hooper as the director of the TV series. So, of course, we know Tobe Hooper I think he just directed the Texas Chainsaw Massacre at the time when this was created. Now, when watching the movie, or the TV series, while Minaj's script generally follows an outline of the source material of Stephen King's novel, several changes were made for creative reasons, such as the main vampire Barlow, who in the novel is a cultured, human-looking villain, and they turned him into a speechless, dynamic-looking monster in the TV series. It's one of the big changes that they made, and I thought it was pretty decent to have Barlow looked like a Nosferatu vampire as opposed to the culture vampire he is in the novel. Another one of the great aspects I loved about the series is that Hooper gives the town a dread and dreary look, like the town has been taken over by something evil. I mean, especially at the house where Barlow is at. I forget the name of the house. Is when the main character Ben, I believe his name is looking to buy that house. You can see that someone else has bought it, but you can see that the house looks like it's dead. It's something's evil coming from it, and it just reminds Ben about all the stories that he was told he was a kid that the house was haunted, and the whole town looks that way. Now, you also have to give credit for Tobe Hooper and the filmmakers, as despite the lack of blood and gore, really don't get that much blood and gore in this particular film. Although the vampire makeup effects look pretty good, you still get a lot of great tension and suspense, and the vampires look frightening enough to give you the chills. I mean, there's this one particular scene where the child comes back as a vampire and he's floating up in the window trying to talk to his brother, and it looks very creepy and eerie. And you really got to give credit. That's what you would like in a vampire film without the blood and the gore. You also have to give credit to the cast as well as David Soul, of Starsky and Hutch fame. He's excellent as Ben Mears, a man who left the town to become a successful writer, only to return, and he still has the same fears he had for the town before he left. All those fears that he had, he didn't have anymore. But as soon as he comes into the town, it's like, God damn it, this town still is eerie. It's scary. It looks dead, and you got to give credit for that. And that's how he portrays Ben Mears in his film. A total 180 of how he plays Starsky and Hutch. Veteran British actor James Manson is wonderful as the mysterious Richard Stalker, a man who, despite his charming voice and mannerism, he's really hiding something evil and dangerous behind that facade. He looks charming. He's got that nice British accent. It looks very well. But underneath that one, there's something brewing evil, and we get to see that later on throughout the series. And you really have to give credit to Reggie Nadler, who is great as the vampire Barlow. Like I said, even though he doesn't have any lines, the practical effects or the makeup effects they made him look like a Nosferatu vampire was wonderful. I really got to give them credit for what they did for that character. They made he's the main vampire in the film, and he's just as scary without him having to say anything. Now, the series would have a positive impact on the vampire subgenre as other vampire films, such as 1985's Frank Night and 1987's The Lost Boys. They have scenes that were influenced by this movie, so you really have to get credit. To really brought back more vampires in the fray. Something we really haven't seen that much during the 70s. Yeah, we had Blackula. We had, I believe, another vampire. I think there was another Dracula film that starred Jack Palance, if I'm not mistaken. But this right here was a very, very great vampire series. Eventually a sequel called Return to Salem's Lot was released in 1987. That was directed by American filmmaker Larry Cohen. And then a remake was broadcast on TNT in 2004 that was directed by Danish filmmaker Michael Solomon. And even though, like I said, it takes place in the same town, that New England town, um, the remake actually is more of a modern take of what happened, and a lot of people didn't like that. I really didn't have a problem with the remake. It was going to be happen. So, but there were some subtle changes in that particular story as opposed to what the novel was. But what are you going to do? But I did like Rucker Hauer as Barlow. Now, in 2019, I'm pretty sure most horror fans, it was announced that New Line Cinema will release a theatrical film based upon a novel with filmmaker Gary Doberman, who wrote the screenplays for It and It Chapter 2, will write and direct the film. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see how this theatrical film, which Warner Brothers wanted to do back in the early 70s, I wonder how Gary is going to take the source material and put this and make it a feature film. Overall for me, Salem's Lot is an excellent vampire film. It still holds up today, thanks to the direction of Hooper, the screen written by Monash, and the acting by the whole entire cast. I even still watch it today because that's how great of effective vampire film this is. And like I said, it still holds up today. As for me, not only Salem Lot is one of my favorite vampire horror films from the 70s, it's one of my favorite one of my favorite horror films that I saw growing up during the 70s. Because I saw a lot of horror films in the 70s. This is one of my favorite ones. So, horror fans, if you have not seen the 1979 version of Salem's Lot, I'm pretty sure you can see it on any type of streaming services right now. If you ever get a chance, please give it a chance and watch it. You'll enjoy it just as much as I did. So there you have it. That's my video for the day, guys. Hope you did enjoy it. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, like, and share because it does help out with that YouTube algorithm. Also, if you're new here, please hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell. That way, we notify anytime when I put a new video such as this one. Once again, my name is Lamont Smith, better known as the Horror Miser Monty G, and always remember that horror rules. I see my next video. Y'all guys stay safe.